Most of you aren't subscribed. Make sure to subscribe, as it helps out the channel. Without further ado, following a long black-haired girl, we see her wake up and prepare for school, heading out as to not be late for school. Having flashbacks of being swarmed by paparazzi, she's greeted by her butler, who drives the girl to school, but at the same time a mysterious car follows them. Stepping onto school grounds, the girl puts on a fake persona, smiling, replying and greeting every student, but notes that one student stands out from the rest. Greeting Kahano, the girl notes how she despises him, being average in terms of looks and grades, but worst shows no interest towards her. With Kahano calling the girl Nishimura, the girl states that it isn't her name, prompting Kahano to reply that he only takes note of important people, apologizing as he was up all night. Having sat next to her for 3 months, Kahano still calls the girl wrong names, but the girl reiterates that her name is Akane Nishino, but Kahano clearly doesn't care, continuing to call her by different names. Realizing that Kahano never actually looked at her the entire time whilst they were conversing, Akane is suddenly pulled away by classmates, all adoring and complimenting her looks and talent. It's revealed that Akane had a massive scandal when she was younger, leaving several mental scars, and this was what led to her putting up barriers from others, hence her fake persona. Going through the day as she usually does, Akane wraps up and decides to head home for the day, calling her chauffeur but sadly gets no response. With no other option, Akane decides to walk home, but begins to grow afraid as it's getting quite dark. Suddenly a tall man blocks her path, forcing Akane to run in an opposing direction, but several other men appear, pulling up only to kidnap her. Before Akane is knocked out, she spots Kahano patiently watching, as her lifeless body is dragged into the men's van. Waking up in a warehouse, Akane realizes that the men are enemies of her father, intending to use Akane as leverage against her rich father. Outside, Kahano begins to disguise himself, scaling the warehouse's wall, all whilst the men make advances on Akane. Breaking in through a window, Kahano interrupts the men, drawing their attention and challenging the men. Spotting one of the men pulling out a gun, Kahano easily disarms and knocks out the first man, prompting a second one to pull out a gun. Being an ex-soldier, the second man chooses to fight honorably, relinquishing his gun, choosing to fight Kahano with a knife. As the man dashes towards Kahano, Kahano makes use of crowbars, managing to defend against the man's advances. Realizing the enemy is attempting to reach for his gun, Kahano swiftly knocks the man out, freeing Akane only to disappear before police arrive. With Akane's father's influence, Akane is able to keep the incident hidden from the public, returning to school the next day as if nothing had happened. Comedically later that evening, Kahano is hit by a truck, passing away instantly. Having always chased after getting stronger, Kahano was always thought of being a side character, even purposely not standing out at school, but secretly put in huge amounts of effort into fighting and training when he was alone. Having been reincarnated and given a second chance, we see Kahano narrate how he is now surrounded by gorgeous women, all under his command. With this new life and power, Kagenos deems himself the eminence in the shadow. Having been reborn to a new family, Kahano notes how he still remembers his past life, but since he's a toddler he's forced to act the part, crying as to not arouse suspicion from his parents. Realizing this world functions on magic, Kahano learns that he is the son of Barun Kagenu, a man who trains dark knights. During training, Kahano purposely allows his older sister to get the spotlight when compared to his average self, but at Kahano night he dons his shadow gear, heading out to seek entertainment. Encountering several bandits, Kahano demands the bandits to hand over their loot, but when the bandits decide to fire projectiles at Kahano, Kangeno is forced to handle the projectiles, showing off his moldable slime blade, easily deflecting and absorbing the projectiles. Spotting someone sneaking up on him, Kahano allows the man to slash him, but unveils his protective slime gear, laughing and disposing of all the men. Digging through the bandits' loot, Kahano is delighted to find a huge sum of gold, but hears something weird, wondering if the bandits had also kept a slave. Unveiling a cage, Kahano notices a horrid creature, having been amalgamated by some curse. Trying to break the curse, Kahano performs various experiments on the creature, successfully breaking the curse, returning the creature back to a blonde girl. When the blonde girl attempts to find out the reason for her being cursed, Kahano is able to make up a story, incorporating a made-up cult of Diablo, and how the blonde girl was destined to serve Kahano. Revealing his shadow form, Kahano is able to convince the blonde girl to join his newly formed Shadow Garden organization, bestowing her the name Alpha. With 3 years passing, Kahano admits that he has managed to keep his operations a secret all this time. Whilst sparring with his older sister, Kahano thinks about various ways to disarm and defeat his big sis, showing off his impressive knowledge of martial arts, having taken inspiration from his previous life. But Kahano intentionally allows his sister to defeat him, flung into a nearby river, only to monstrously hoist himself out of the water when his sister leaves the scene. As Kahano's sister turns 15, she prepares to head to mandatory magical school, but on the day of the departure, she is nowhere to be seen. Infuriating their father, Kahano notes that his organization has grown over the years, speaking to Beta, prompting Kahano to reveal that he recruited several other girls just like Alpha. Sending the girls to track down his sister's captives, Kahano manages to accidentally point out the captive's secret base, ordering the 7 shadows to head out with him immediately. Cutting to his sister, Claire, we see Claire chained up, but still has enough energy to avoid attacks from her kidnappers. As Claire chats with her kidnappers, the kidnapper mentions how he knows of Kahano, threatening to torture Kahano in order to break Claire's cold demeanor. Hearing the kidnapper threaten to use Kahano, Claire gets pissed, breaking her chains, attempting to punish the kidnapper, but is unfortunately knocked out when the kidnapper gets serious. Suddenly the kidnappers are alerted of an attack from 7 mysterious girls, all easily able to dispatch the kidnappers who are revealed to be as strong as royal guards. When the girls reveal themselves to the leader of the kidnappers, Alpha chooses to duel the leader, easily out-trading blows, but intentionally holds back, keeping the leader alive. Desperate, the leader pops a pill, surprising Alpha by smashing a hole in the ground and escaping. Unfortunately, the leader runs into Kahano, who has been lost in the kidnapper's dungeon this entire time. Charging at Kahano, Kahano notes how slow his enemy is moving, dodging and evading the leader's strikes, all whilst giving his enemy tips on how to move and fight better. Having easily dodged all of his enemy's strikes, Kahano spots the leader unleashing his final form, but is dispatched by Kahano before any real damage could be dealt. Noting that the leader had a daughter, Kahano heads home only to greet Claire, who had been left by Kahano to force herself out of the cell. With only several hours of sleep, Claire was only able to heal some of her wounds overnight, but immediately heads out for her first day at school. That evening, Kahano has a meeting with his Shadow Garden girls wanting to celebrate their organization growing so much, but Kahano is shocked to hear the girls have decided to leave Kahano. Check out one of our other videos on the screen or in the info card above. Subscribe, like and comment.